Acidic Glavenus is one of my favorite subspecies additions to Monster Hunter world as a whole. And in all honesty, he just kind of fits that bill of a whole subspecies, able to adapt to any environment and overcome it. But why is he the way he is, Why does he live this certain way? And how successful of a subspecies is he? Well, that's what we're here to find out. So let's begin. Be sure to comment down below, like and subscribe, and share with your friends. Acidic Glavenus lives in the Rotten Vale and mainly visits the acid pools. This may have been where the original species may have formed, and we're just seeing it where, it kind of is today. This acidic agent bonding or whatever has changed the Glavenus species as a whole to the point where they have bonded with this acid agent and have it hang on its tail, spreading it throughout the Rotten Vale. In turn, the Glavenus is able to use this agent as a weapon, and it's able to honestly clean its blade for it when it forms, meaning that Glavenus can get a much more smoother and much more sleeker blade than its original counterpart, which has a more butcher, more messy kind of blade, if you will, And Acidic Glavenus's, lifestyle in the Rotten Vale doesn't really mimic the other predators. Tigrex is an opportunist. Odogaron is both a hunter and a scavenger, while Acidic Glavenus has been stated to be the only active hunter in the Rotten Vale. This actually helps it out quite a bit. Not only does it get fresh kills, but it also can drag it to places where maybe other predators, except for Val Hazak, wouldn't go. Excuse me. So it lives here in mainly these acidic areas, and it's able to pretty much breed and thrive here. But what does Glavenus eat? Well, from its intro, maybe Gyros. Great Gyros and even its younger counterparts are actually stated to be vulnerable to predators, including the likes of Odogaron and, unfortunately, the Devil Joe. So Acidic Glavenus would probably and most definitely would prey upon the Gyros and its Greats as well. And I mean, it does suffer from the same mortality rate as the Drones and Greats, with the Great Gyros mainly having the, issues of being preyed upon the most because they're the much bigger version of their species. So this means Great Gyros would probably be a good supplement of its diet, considering we did see in the intro to Monster Hunter World that Great Gyros was being preyed upon by the Acidic Glavenus. And again, while it's not a bird wyvern, it does follow the same routine as the Drones and the Greats, with the bigger ones kind of catching the most heat just due to them kind of standing out and protecting the group. Rattlebond is another one that would be easily a prey item for pretty much every predator of the Rotten Vale. We've seen it get taken down by Tigrex. We know that Odogaron constantly hunts it. It's a much more well-equipped predator. And Rattlebond is a bone eater. Bonboro as well. I do think Bonboro would definitely make a good substance of the Acidic Glavenus' diet, because they do occasionally visit the Rotten Vale for, I guess you could say, an extra supplement of, calcium in their diet, or, get the nutrition in the bone fiber. So, yeah, I do have to say Bonboro, again, is a part of the, you could definitely say the Acidic Glavenus' diet, because it does visit there every so often. Only thing is, I think it probably has a much fairer chance of fighting Glavenus off than Rattlebond, just simply due to how the ecology looks, just to how their body materials work, and the sheer fact that, again, like I stated, Bomber is able to fight off and even kill Anjanaths. So Acidic Glavenus would not be a slouch or a pushover, but neither is the Bombero. So this means we have these three creatures in total, plus the Raphanos to kind of, subsidize and even being able to feed a Acidic Glavenus. But what about rivals? What does it have down here? Now, let's start with probably the least likely to most likely, or at least the only least likely candidate here, and that's Val Hazak. Now, it's very possible that these two may encounter each other frequently, but it may be just sort of like, hey, I know you're here, let me roar so that, you don't bump into me and that there's no issues. And then Valhazak would probably give off the same thing, but if a Glavenus does get a little testy with Valhazak, it will be met with an effluvium blast to basically, tell it to, hey, back off, I'm not really in the mood for a fight, but if you do, I can kill you like this. So again, it's very possible that Valhazak isn't really a rival to Glavenus or any form of competition. I mean, it's an Elder Dragon. There is no competition with it, unless you're Elder Dragon level. To which I would say Acidic Glavenus may not be, but it's definitely adapted to maybe even counter, maybe even try to pick off any young Valhazak that are covered in corpses. So Acidic Glavenus really wouldn't bother a Valhazak, and I don't think a Valhazak would really bother a Acidic Glavenus either. However, we do have to take a note that Glavenus's armor is thick enough to withstand attacks from a lot of predators, and this would even include Odogarons. But I would have to say to a degree here. Odogaron has one of the strongest bite forces in Monster Hunter, able to penetrate the hide of an Azor Rathalos, which is said to be much more thicker than a regular Rathalos, able to even perform dive bombs like a Basil Goose. And considering its turf wars, where it's able to bite through much thicker and much stronger hides, such as even ore or even the explosive resistant shells of a Brachydios. Yeah, I'm going to have to say that the Odogaron species definitely has the strongest bite force, pound for pound, or PSI for PSI, than any other monster. This means Acidic Glavenus' armor might even be might be one of the strongest in the New World, second to only Najarala in the Old World, meaning that his armor is pretty much adapted to deal with the bites of both Odogaron and its subspecies, which could possibly even cause more damage to it, simply because Dragon Element is made to nullify the abilities and the durability as well of other monsters. This means that Acidic Glavenus' armor might have some resistance to Dragon Element just due to the fact it has to ecologically evolve with the Odogaron species, as even then some subspecies will come back to their birthplaces in Monster Hunter to breed and to kind of just like continue to reproduce in areas that they find safer for their species. So again, while Acidic Glavenus armor is tough, it also may have resistance buildup due to pretty much having to turf war and scrap with these Odogarons constantly. And if you had to give me a comparison to how this works, it would probably work like some of these armored sauropods. Some like Amargasaurus or Bahadasaurus, who were believed to have these spikes around their neck to prevent predators from biting down on it. Acidic Glavenus would be no different, and it has that armor for a reason. It has this acid coating around its tail for a reason as well. Not only for offensive measures, but for defense as well. Now, I know some scientists say, oh, well, maybe it just had like this skin flap with these spines, over it. But again, it's a 50-50. It's also based on theory that some of these, sauropods like Bahadasaurus and Amargasaurus had these skin flaps. Meanwhile, they could have simply had these neck spikes that could give them a much more subtle form of defense against other predators. Okay? But if you had to give me another estimate and say, hey, let's use a more, non-theorizing creature, the Ankylosaurus or the Nodosaurus. Okay? These creatures had armor built for predators, built for those who would come around and use that advantage to bite down. And if they tried to attack the sides, well, they always had their tails with long, flexible muscles to actually just swing around and hit these monsters in the face. And in all honesty, Glavenus does apply to this. I know you might say, well, doesn't it kind of look like a Carnotaurus? Yes, it does look more like a Carnotaurus. However, it doesn't follow the same rules. It's not fast. It's not agile. It's not, well, I mean, yeah, it is pretty fast and it's pretty agile, agile, right? but it's not in the same way a Carnotaurus is. Glavenus doesn't have that same capacity as a Carnotaurus, okay? It's also likely its armor was meant to deal with Devil Joe, okay? Both being nomadic species and definitely invader species, Devil Joe, Glavenus, and Tigrex may have bumped into each other a lot more often, with even a flux of Basilgoose and Zinogre in there just for good mix. But in the New World, there's a lot more invaders that Glavenus has to deal with, so the New World Glavenus species and the acidic Glavenus may have had their armor slightly more adjusted to being handling and to being within, confrontations with each other, to more territorial disputes with, the likes of Devil Joe, okay? They're just made to constantly deal with this constant barrage or this constant fighting. I mean, Tigrex and Glavenus may encounter each other more in the New World than Tigrex and Devil Joe did in the Old World. I do believe that Tigrex may have encountered Devil Joe a lot more, and they may have fought a lot more than with, other predators. Simply because nomadic nature does mean you're going to bump into another nomadic creature. However, in the New World, there's also Ebony Odogaron, which can be everywhere now. And the same with Glavenus being in one of the few 3, 4, and 5 locations, and along with Tigrex, who can also be everywhere as well. This means that these predators are going to bump into each other regularly. And with Tigrex being a main member of the Rot in Vale ecology now, it's very likely that Glavenus does supplement Tigrex as the apex predator, maybe even rivaled by Odogaron. But I do have to say here that these monsters do have this same ecological warfare with each other, where Tigrex is adapted to kind of just living everywhere, while Glavenus is now fully adapted to living a life in the Rotten Vale as a hunter. But why is it a hunter, right? Why is it like this? And it may be because there's much more bountiful food to be had than scavenging. And if it actually gets outdone in scavenging, it may just resort to hunting it. Meaning it's able to get a Raffinos, or maybe it's able to get a Rattlebond more frequently than the likes of Odogaron and Tigrex, who would be like, what's the point in me wasting all this energy, and I can just get food. Meanwhile, Glavenus probably has the best energy reserves out of the entire group, and it would go for hunting a lot more. But anyway, you guys, we've really reached the end of this here, and my final thoughts here, I kind of think acidic Glavenus is definitely a perfect way to show that the Glavenus species is much more adaptable than you think. You don't need a regular Glavenus. You don't need Hellblade. You can actually have your own subspecies for Glavenus. And I would actually like to see an Arctic variant for Glavenus as a whole. But anyway, that's going to be all for today, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I'll see you guys later for the next Ecology video. Peace.